A few years back, I was working with a young man who had a hearing impairment and also was kind of in the process of his parents understanding or identifying him as autistic with a PDA profile. He was also already diagnosed with ADHD, and he was someone who unfortunately would struggle to regulate his anxiety, and when pushed, there might be a chance of him exploding. Or becoming overwhelmed or having a meltdown. So I was working with him once and I'd asked him a question, and I asked him again in a different way and then again in a different way, and each time he didn't respond, and I didn't know if he was just avoiding some sort of demand, avoiding making a decision. It just, in my head, felt like I was being ignored. Until eventually, luckily, he shouted at me, "I'm still thinking!" And that taught me a lot. Actually, he was still processing the question that I'd asked him. Now, particularly with open questions where there's lots of possible answers, that can cause some extra processing need. For someone with a demand avoidance or an anxiety, there might be some suspicion about why you're asking. There might be some need to create space and not feel under pressure or demand. So the communication adjustment I'm going to suggest, 10 count. Give yourself a 10 count. If you've asked a question, if you've made a statement that requires some sort of response, or that you want to check that they've really heard, give yourself a 10 count at least. It's not a lot of time in terms of processing actually, but for us, 10 seconds can feel like a very long time. It certainly did for me then. What that does, it allows the person to understand you're not going to keep pushing. So if there is a demand avoidance or a pressure or anxiety there, that can be helpful. It allows them time to process the question. And then I would usually follow up with some sort of declarative, like, "I'm not sure if you heard what I said," or something like that, before I then go back in with the same question, the same statement. And another thing that a lot of us do is we'll ask a question one way and then we'll reword it and reframe it to try and make it more understandable. But again, I've heard some autistic people talk about that actually just being confusing because it's just another question to answer and now they've got to start again. So yeah, simple communication adjustment. If you've asked a question, if you've given an instruction or response, give yourself a 10 count if you can.